What's up, Covalence friends? We've got a really exciting series here for you guys. We'll be exploring how to utilize email-based authentication features. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be able to do a lot of stuff without really too much effort. As long as you have the ability to alter your users table to add one column and have an email client, then cool. All of these features are completely possible. So if you want to catch all of this series, which you should, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So some of the features we'll be exploring will be verifying accounts, easy peasy. And if you have accounts verified, then you can kind of trust that the remaining features are doable. Stuff such as, well, password resets, magic link-based login, preventing logging in until the user account is verified, and heck, even if you wanted to do multi-factor authentication by emailing 6-digit codes, we can do all the above. So if you're ready, go ahead, strap in, and let's get the series started. So that was cool. I haven't done like a clap or like a snap for a video yet, but I really liked doing that. So I'm already having too much fun with this project. So for this project, I really want to emphasize from the get-go, and I'll keep emphasizing this, you do not need to follow along with this. I'm going to show you how I'm taking this project, a project that currently exists in this format, and how we can extend extra functionality upon it with these email authentication features. You can do the very same regardless of what database engine you're doing. I almost did this in Postgres, but I decided to use MySQL instead. Whether or not you're using, low-level drivers, or if you're using an ORM, or heck, even if you're using non-relational, databases, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to have like a node project. You can be writing this in a completely other, language. As long as we follow these kind of fundamental steps, all you need are the ability to alter, that one table for your users, and if you have an email service that you can utilize. That's really all we need. So if you still want to follow along with this video instead of trying to implement these features on your own project, I do have a branch base that is just this core carbon copy of the beginning of this application that you can clone, check out into, and implement everything with every step of each video. But that's kind of just a TLDR of what this is. It is a pretty bare bones application. I have server side. We are connected to a singular MySQL instance. I have one database that I'm connected to. We've got some queries that utilize my query function wrapper here. And for my users table, we have the ability to register a new user. We have the ability to find a user via email. And then we have the ability to mark a user as verified. This comes into play very handily, but we have, and I just caught a bug too. I'm glad I'm talking over this, because there's something here that I just noticed that I didn't when creating my database. So thank you, watchers and listeners, for helping me out here. We are using this verify query to mark the user's verified status to 1. And I have it actually saved on the database as is verified. So that is the true name of the column there, but we can mark a user verified by their email. So some important attributes to point out here. This table, or this database that I have, only has this one users table, because like I said, I am keeping this as a very small, minimalist, lightweight application, just because we don't need all the extra fluff. I just need an application where I can log in and register before we can extend upon that to add all of our authentication features. So my users table has an ID that is managed by the database. It has an email column, and we have a very, very, very important attribute here. We have to ensure that the email column is unique. That is something you should always do for emails and usernames. Make sure that they are unique columns. Otherwise, you can have multiple people sign up utilizing the same email. And if you're using some kind of system like UUID to assign your IDs instead of like incremented integers, well, whoever has the highest up alphabetical or like lowest alphabetical order of UUIDs for that same email will take precedence over whoever may have registered first. So you can kind of almost have like maybe an account hijack of some sort, like somebody could post as a user. You just don't want to run into weird situations like that, so always make sure that is unique. We have a password. I've got it as just a defined 60-character string because we're using bcrypt to salt and hash everything. And then the isVerified column, I'm storing as a tiny integer just because it's the Boolean column just aliases out to tinyint, where true and false evaluate as 1 and 0 respectively. So we're giving it a default value of 0, which is going to evaluate as falsy in JavaScript terms anyway. So if we check to see if user.isVerified, if it's 0, that's false, 1, it's true. So, keeps it pretty easy for us. But this is the one column you need to add, and you must add. Because otherwise, most of the features downstream that you want to do really should be dependent on that status here. So this is our database setup. As far as the rest of our server setup goes, and let me make sure I commit this and save and push it, so that way when you're following along, you don't have a bad query. Just have a typical server setup. I have my auth router set up to just link to a login route and a register route. Both pretty straightforward, not anything too crazy going on with that. With registration, usually speaking, I like to generate a token and automatically log my users in. For the sake of this application, I don't do that, just so we don't have to kind of block that login at multiple stages. Here in my login router itself, we do allow our credentials to be matched up, and if they do match up, I do generate a token and log my user in. So I don't quite, want to allow this functionality to happen quite yet. We want to verify our email first, and then we want to permit logins. So if a user registers, we want to fire off that email verification email. And then once a user verifies their account, they can attempt to log in. And if they try to log in before verifying, we want to have some code here blocking it, saying like, if not user.isVerified, return a response, go check your email. And we can even have that resend automatically for us. So we can do some stuff that's both secure and very user experience oriented. So that's kind of what our login and registration logic is looking like right now. And like I said, you really don't need to know what's happening in this backend per se, because you don't need to. It's not going to be the same as what your application is. What follows this video is really going to be the most important. This is just how I've implemented a very small, very quick backend. I also do have some utilities here. I have a tokens file where I have a couple token signing functions. So I have get login token where I have a specific login payload where I can encode, a user's credentials and assign that for just a regular login. That's the function we saw earlier. And we have get temp token, which is a smaller payload, and it's a very short-lived duration. It's a 15-minute lived token, and this is what we're going to be sending in our email URLs. We're going to be sending them as query parameters, and so this is what we'll end up, capturing and sending in our email and validating. So we'll get to see how get temp token comes into play later. And finally, I have a mailer utility as well. So I'm utilizing Mailgun for this project. You can use whatever mailing service that you like best. It doesn't matter. Just like how this project doesn't even have to use Node. You can use whatever, backend or client-side languages of your choice. It doesn't matter. Just these fundamental concepts are what you'll need to follow. That being said, Mailgun did break their typings a little while back, and they suggested in their GitHub issues that everybody uses const to require, aka, oh, TypeScript's broken, just don't import it. So obviously, I still want some TypeScript support and rules in place. So instead, we do some inferences and generics to get our Mailgun client to still retain all typings associated with it. But we create our client here, and we also have my little mail function here. We're going to be changing this up probably a little bit, but it allows us to compartmentalize to from subject and HTML into this object here, and we just return the Mailgun messages API to send that off. So just kind of another little abstraction layer, but this makes it very easy for us to import somewhere and create an email and craft it to have some kind of string saying, hey, click this link to go ahead and verify your account, or click this magic link URL once you're verified in order to automatically log in. So I would suggest, creating something like this once you've integrated and registered with your default favorite, email provider of, whatever flavor you choose. My config, whoops, I forgot about that before this video. It might seem a little weird. I have some pretty aggressive TypeScript rules enabled, including non-null and undefined checks here. So normally speaking, I don't do all of this kind of checking here. I usually just do non-null or non-undefined assertion operations after process.env, because TypeScript won't exactly know if process.env whatever variable you're extracting out, if it actually exists or not. So that's why I destructure everything out of process.env for a specific config object, and then check to see if they're truthy, and if they're not, I throw an error. So that way, TypeScript can be certain that it is defined in truthy by this point. So it might look a little weird. I forgot to remove that. Normally I would probably just do non-null assertion operations myself for my own personal projects, but I guess better habits should be enforced. Like, the application itself depends on these values, so really I probably should throw an error if these are missing, and since this is nothing that can be caught, since I'm not trying to wrap in the import of a specific config object in a catch block, it's going to be an unhandled error, which should crash my server, which that's kind of the intent. We would want my server to exit upon an unhandled error, especially if it's something as catastrophic as this. So I'll leave that in place. You don't have to do that. You can set up your config however you need. But like I cannot reiterate this enough. Like I've said, you do not have to clone this project. If you would like to, we still have this base branch you can utilize. But this is really my quick example of what we need. Client-side wise, it's my first time working with Material UI, so I might have to goof around and tinker around with this a little bit more at a later point. Forgot what I put for home. Okay, yeah. So yeah, don't obliterate me in the comments for my horrible Material UI utilization, or if you do, at least do it nicely. Make sure to comment, with some MUI tips if you do have some. I get in kind of a habit of either oscillating between Bootstrap and then Tailwind, and then I end up doing a lot of inline CSS from scratch, and then kind of oscillating back and forth. So I'm kind of liking Material UI. It's a little new, but it looks pretty nice. Definitely not a designer by any means, but so far functionality wise, if my server is running, it is cool. We can go ahead and switch this to registration mode. So let me switch to actually test at test.com. And then Hunter2, that's always my go-to test data, test at test.com, Hunter2. Let's make sure I can at least register. Okay, cool. Let me nuke my local storage for localhost. And let's go ahead and test out that login functionality as well. So yeah, my login page, I just conditionally toggle saying, hey, should this be a login or registration route? And so I just registered. I can click the toggle to log in with those credentials now. Okay, and I should have my credentials stored in local storage now. Or maybe I don't actually store them. I don't know, we can look at the client-side code. I forgot. So yeah, we use that Boolean state as login just to see whether or not I should log in or not. And we also use that Boolean piece of state for my error message here. If it looks kind of weird that I didn't just do the ternary all for the URL, it's because I was reusing that condition down here for that string. Oh yeah, no, I'm never saving the token in local storage. But yeah, we go ahead and post to whatever URL we have, whether it's auth login or auth register, and then if it's not okay, we do our little error toast. If we have a message property, and if the response is good, we'll show it. And if we have data.token, I'll go ahead and stash it in local storage. So that way I can still kind of like get our login state, but we're going to be blocking this shortly anyway. So let me refresh. Test at test.com. Hunter 2, login, successfully logged in. Ugh, I might not have refreshed in time. Or it was still bundling in the background. All right, test at test.com. Let's check our network response. Post. Okay, so my network is actually responding with it. Did I not save my code? I did. It just is taking forever to refresh. Oh, you know what? I might not have this in dev mode. I might have it just running. That's a classic Andrew move. If you've seen me accidentally leave the wrong server running or running the wrong script, go ahead and like and make a comment making fun of me. Classic. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this rebuilt since I was running our start script. And I do have if data.token. Yeah. Something is still bound. Okay, there we go. Alright, this is the test at test.com, hunter2, login, and then it's going to be populated in local storage. Since I'm actually now running the most up-to-date code. Whoops. So yeah, there we have it. This is pretty much all of our client-side code. There's not a whole lot. It's just like a React router. I just have my home element and my login element here. So we'll end up creating some kind of verification pages. And for the verification pages, we really just need to land on them and have kind of a daisy-chained server-side GET request. So, the user is going to land on the page on a verify page of some kind after having clicked on an email. And then we can use some of React Router DOM's hooks to extract any query parameters out of the URL from the client side. And we'll probably just daisy chain those query parameters down to our server. So it'll be just kind of a quick in and out kind of component. But that is all we have for the quick little TLDR of this application and what our next steps are. So next minor step for step 1 is generating the verification email and verifying our user and blocking login until they're verified. So until then, we'll see you next time, folks. So like I just said, That's all of step 0, just kind of the TLDR of what the application is currently doing and what we need to do. So in order to see the remainder of the series where we actually get to implementing a lot of this fun and awesome logic, go ahead and subscribe so that way you'll be notified when the next ones come out. Until then, see y'all later.